So imagine just for a second that you are like the most helpful, reliable person in your entire community.
Oh, right. The person everyone just constantly depends on.
Exactly. You are the one everyone calls when their car breaks down at, 3 in the morning. You're organizing the neighborhood watch, making sure people are fed when times get tough.
Just a pillar of the community.
Yeah, you are constantly stepping between bullies and their targets. You are, by every conceivable metric, the ultimate force for good in your ecosystem.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
And then, one day, you wake up to find that your entire neighborhood has surrounded your house with torches.
Wow.
Right. And they aren't attacking you because you did something wrong. They are attacking you because they are terrified of your potential.
Because you're too capable.
Yes. They look at your competence, your constant self-improvement, your boundless energy, and they think, well, what happens if they ever turn against us?
So they preemptively strike.
Exactly. They burn your house down, salt the earth, and drive you into complete exile.
It is such a fascinating psychological paradox. Being punished not for your sins, but, well, for your virtues. The sheer weight of your competence basically becomes a mirror that reflects their own inadequacies.
That is exactly it. But now, I want you to imagine 1,000 years go by.
A millennium.
Yeah, a full 1,000 years. And the neighborhood that exiled you has completely fallen apart without your structural support.
Naturally.
And suddenly you come back. You hold the absolute, undisputed power to destroy every single one of their descendants with just the push of a button.
And you have every historical and logical justification in the universe to actually do it.
Right. So how do you react? What do you choose?
It's a scenario that really forces us to examine the absolute core of what power actually means. Like, when you possess the capacity for total, unmitigated destruction, what dictates your next move?
Do you hold on to that anger?
Exactly. Do you operate based on the wounds of the past, or do you construct the architecture of the future?
And that is the exact mission of today's deep dive. We are unpacking this genuinely mind-bending piece of science fiction, a narrative text titled The Mercy of 1,000 Years.
It's a brilliant piece of world building.
It really is. We're looking at a humanity-centric story that details our rise, the ultimate galactic betrayal, and the godlike return of humanity to the cosmic stage.
But as you're going to see, this isn't just some story about laser beams and space battles.
No, not at all.
Far from it. I mean, while it certainly has the incredible scale and geopolitical maneuvering of a space opera, at its heart, the source material we are examining today is a profound sociological exploration.
It gets deep.
It really does. It analyzes the mechanics of power, the corrosive nature of foundational propaganda, and the ultimate agonizing choice between vengeance and grace.
Right, it's asking a deeply personal question on a galactic scale.
Exactly. It uses this massive canvas of an interstellar conflict to ask a very intimate human question, which is, what do we do with our anger when we finally have the unchecked power to unleash it?
Okay, let's unpack this, because we really have to start at the beginning to understand the weight of that question. We need to look at humanity's original status in the galaxy before the fall.
And it's quite the resume.
Honestly, it is a stellar resume. Before the betrayal, humans were the apex contributors to the galactic community. They were the explorers charting the unknown sectors, the engineers constructing the interstellar infrastructure.
And the scientists pushing the boundaries of physics.
Right. But above all of that, they were the protectors.
The narrative establishes humanity not as conquerors, but as, well, the ultimate first responders.
The galactic paramedics, basically.
Pretty much. Whenever an ecological disaster struck a world, human fleets were the first in orbit. Whenever a blockade starved a colony, human cargo ships broke the line.
They were the ones getting their hands dirty.
Yeah, whenever regional tyrants rose up to oppress a vulnerable system, human soldiers were the ones standing in the mud against them. They were the load-bearing pillar of galactic stability.
Let me jump in right there, because this is where the logic seems to completely break down for a lot of people.
The motivation for the betrayal.
Yeah. If humanity is doing all of this, if they are propping up the galactic economy, saving planets from famine, acting as the neutral arbiter in disputes, why on earth does the galaxy turn on them?
It feels incredibly counterintuitive.
Right. You don't assassinate your own bodyguard. It just doesn't make sense.
It does seem counterintuitive until you examine it through the lens of game theory and the sociology of envy. We really need to look at how these alien empires viewed the universe, versus how humanity viewed it.
Okay, break it down for us.
So the alien coalition was composed of ancient, established, and largely stagnant empires. They operated on a strictly zero-sum worldview.
Meaning there has to be a loser for every winner.
Exactly. In a zero-sum game, if you are winning, I must be losing. If you're getting stronger, my relative power is decreasing.
So even though humanity was using its strength to help them, the alien empires couldn't see past the fact that the strength existed at all.
Precisely. Humanity viewed galactic civilization as a positive-sum game. If we build better infrastructure, everyone's economy grows.
A rising tide lifts all boats.
Yes, exactly. If we cure a disease, everyone lives longer. But to the stagnant alien empires, humanity's relentless upward trajectory was an existential threat.
Because they just couldn't stop innovating.
Right. The source material notes that humanity never stopped advancing. Every decade, they introduced new technologies. Every century, their sphere of influence naturally expanded just because people trusted them.
So the sheer competence of humanity breeds this intense, paralyzing insecurity.
Yes. And when a group feels existentially threatened, even if that threat is purely abstract and related to their status rather than their physical safety, they will project their own malicious tendencies onto the outgroup.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
The alien empires looked at humanity's vast logistical power and thought, well, if we had that much capability, we would conquer the galaxy.
So they assume humanity wants to do the same thing.
Therefore, because humanity has that capability, they must be secretly planning to conquer the galaxy. They assumed humanity was just playing a very long, very deceptive game.
That projection is wild. They literally invented a motive for humanity based entirely on their own toxic political culture.
A textbook case of paranoia.
And what's staggering to me is the logistics of what happens next. The source describes a sudden, completely unprovoked attack by a united coalition of hundreds of alien empires.
Hundreds.
Try to imagine the diplomatic and logistical nightmare of coordinating a preemptive military strike across hundreds of distinct interstellar governments without a single whistleblower warning Earth.
It really speaks to the unifying power of structural paranoia. To keep a secret of that magnitude, the fear of humanity must have superseded every other political rivalry or ethical consideration those empires possessed.
They were just that terrified.
They managed to coordinate because they truly believed they were preempting their own enslavement.
And the execution of that paranoia is just devastating. The attack comes completely out of nowhere. Human colonies, the very places that exported medical supplies and disaster relief, are burned from orbit.
Total devastation.
Vital trade routes are collapsed. Defensive fleets are ambushed and annihilated. It's not just a political realignment. It is a war of absolute extermination.
The narrative describes a 10-year brutal conflict. And from a strategic standpoint, a decade is a horrifyingly long time to fight an entirely defensive, losing war against overwhelming numbers.
Just a grinding retreat.
For 10 years, humanity had to watch as the very species they had fed, the very civilizations they had defended, turn their weapons on Earth and its colonies.
The heartbreak of that is unimaginable.
The psychological trauma of that betrayal, realizing that your altruism was rewarded with an attempt at genocide, it must have fundamentally altered the human psyche.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one thing to lose a war to a sworn enemy. It is a completely different psychological gut punch to be slaughtered by the people you consider friends and allies.
It shatters your trust in the universe.
And after 10 years, the human presence in the galaxy simply vanishes. The historical records of the alien coalition don't explicitly say every human was killed, but all human infrastructure falls, all planets are scoured, and humanity disappears into the dark edges of space.
They were just gone.
And the galaxy declares victory. The human era is officially over.
They actually threw a galactic parade for themselves.
You're kidding.
No, they really believed they had surgically removed a tumor, completely failing to realize they had just ripped out their own spine.
I love that framing. Because you can't just violently remove the apex protector and mediator from a complex ecosystem without massive cascading consequences.
You really can't.
And this leads us directly into the 1,000-year decay of the alien coalition.
So, to understand why the coalition collapses, we have to look at the mechanisms of their alliance. As we discussed, they were unified solely by their zero-sum paranoia regarding humanity.
Right.
Once humanity is removed from the board, that unifying force just evaporates. If you think about the structure of a Roman arch, humanity was the keystone.
The central piece.
The keystone is the central stone at the apex of the arch that locks all the other stones into position. It bears the weight.
Right. If you pull the keystone out, The individual stones don't shatter immediately, but the inward pressure they exert on each other causes the entire structure to instantly collapse.
Exactly. Without humanity there to act as the neutral arbiter in trade disputes, economic treaties began to degrade.
It's a domino effect.
Without human fleets patrolling the shipping lanes, piracy surged, which led to localized resource wars. Without the overarching protection of human first responders, planets that suffered natural disasters simply died,
Which causes refugee crises.
which further destabilized neighboring systems. The old rivalries that have been suppressed by their shared fear of humanity just roared back to life.
It's a spectacular failure of long-term strategic thinking. The irony is almost painful. These empires committed a genocide to secure their own autonomy and peace.
But they got the exact opposite.
Yeah, in executing that betrayal, they doomed themselves to a millennium of self-inflicted warfare and decay. The peace they thought they were buying was an absolute illusion.
It highlights a grim sociological reality. A coalition built entirely on a foundation of shared hatred or fear has absolutely no structural integrity once the target is destroyed.
Because there's nothing positive holding them together.
They fundamentally lacked the moral framework and the diplomatic infrastructure that humanity had been providing for free. So for 1,000 years, the galaxy slowly bleeds itself dry.
And we really need to sit with that time frame for a moment. 1,000 years of constant grinding decline.
It's immense.
That is 30 or 40 generations of aliens born into a galaxy that is objectively worse, more dangerous, and poorer than the one their ancestors inherited.
Just a slow rot.
But alongside that material decay, there's something deeply fascinating happening culturally. Let's talk about the epigenetics of generational guilt.
Yes, the psychological burden of the betrayal. Even though the modern alien citizens are centuries removed from the war, their entire society is built on a foundational myth that they righteously defeated a monster.
Right, the propaganda.
But as their own societies crumble, as they continuously betray each other, a subconscious realization begins to set in. They look around at the ruins of their own making and secretly wonder, well, were we the bad guys all along?
That guilt basically becomes baked into their cultural DNA. And then, at the absolute nadir of their civilization, a signal hits.
Out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. It's not localized. It bypasses every degraded firewall and security protocol they have left. It hits every surviving alien government simultaneously.
It's just a total system override.
And there are no demands for surrender. There's no list of grievances. It is just 6 words. Humanity remembers. Humanity returns.
The linguistic economy of those 6 words is just a masterclass in psychological warfare.
It gives me chill.
It doesn't say, humanity is coming to kill you. It doesn't issue an ultimatum. It simply states 2 undeniable, terrifying facts. We have not forgotten the sin of your ancestors, and we are back.
It is the most terrifying, cryptic read receipt imaginable.
That's a great way to put it.
Imagine sending a horrible, life-ruining message to someone, and for 10 years you hear absolutely nothing. Then suddenly the little typing bubbles appear, and the only reply is, seen.
Oh, the dread.
That is what this is, but on an existential galactic scale. Panic just spreads instantly.
And notice the mechanism of that panic. Because the alien empires operate on that zero-sum paranoid framework, they automatically assume humanity is returning to operate by those same brutal rules.
Right, they think humanity is just like them.
They project their own vindictiveness onto the returning fleet. They think if we were returning after 1,000 years of exile, we would glass every planet in sight.
So they scramble whatever degraded military assets they have left. But they don't even know where to aim, because they have no idea where humanity has been or what they've been doing for 10 centuries.
1,000 years in the dark.
And then, the return fleet arrives near the galactic core. And the descriptions of this fleet, it completely breaks the alien understanding of physics.
We are talking about celestial scale engineering. The source material describes human ships that are larger than cities, some larger than moons.
Moons? That is insane.
This isn't just an upgrade in weaponry. This is a paradigm shift in technological capability. The text explicitly notes that alien sensors couldn't even register the whole compositions of these vessels.
They couldn't even comprehend what they were looking at.
No known weapon could dent them. They were, for all intents and purposes, gods descending upon a Bronze Age battlefield.
The stage is set for the ultimate reckoning. The galaxy is looking up at ships the size of moons, entirely bracing for the fire.
They know it's over.
They know they deserve it. Their foundational guilt is screaming at them that this is the end. But the fleet doesn't fire. The human armada simply anchors itself in space, silent, observing.
That silence is a devastating tactical decision.
How's
In the psychology of conflict, an imminent active threat is often less terrifying than an ambiguous one. When an enemy is shooting at you, your brain is occupied with the immediate mechanics of survival. You shoot back, you take cover.
too busy reacting?
Right. But when an infinitely superior force just parks itself above your homeworld and does absolutely nothing, your imagination takes over. You are left alone with your guilt.
Oh, that is brutal.
Waiting for a blow that doesn't fall is an agonizing, unique kind of terror. It forces the alien governments to marinate in the consequences of their ancestors' betrayal.
It's the ultimate tension. The string is pulled as tight as it can possibly go. You were just waiting for the first human railgun to fire.
But it doesn't.
Right at that apex of tension, the narrative throws a massive cosmic curveball. The silence is broken, but not by humanity. It's broken by something infinitely worse bleeding in from the dark edges of space.
This is where we are introduced to the true existential threat of this universe, the Void Swarm.
The real bad guys.
This isn't a political faction or a breakaway republic. The Swarm is described as a force of cosmic horror, ancient, biological nightmare constructs.
Like living starships, right?
Yes. Organic weapons that consume matter.
It's an extinction-level event that just rolls into the galaxy. They aren't interested in treaties or territory. They're an apex predator operating on a galactic scale.
Just pure consumption.
The historical records say that entire alien colony worlds were simply disappearing overnight. Their planetary crusts stripped, their populations consumed.
Horrifying.
And here is the brutal, staggering irony of the situation. The very alien empires that spent 1,000 years degrading each other, the same empires that exterminated humanity for being too competent, are now getting absolutely slaughtered.
Facing complete erasure.
And what do? They beg humanity for help.
They scream into the void, asking the ghost of the species they murdered to save them.
The audacity.
It presents humanity with a fascinating, almost unimaginable strategic and moral dilemma. The universe has essentially handed humanity the perfect instrument of retribution.
They don't even have to lift a finger.
Humanity doesn't have to fire a single weapon to exact their revenge. All they have to do is maintain their silence. Just sit behind their impenetrable shields, wait a few years, and watch the Void Swarm wipe the slate completely clean.
And for a while, nobody answers the aliens.
Yeah.
They get pure radio silence. Because as the source material reveals, back on Earth, an absolute ideological civil war is raging in the human command centers.
The debate is fierce.
We get a look inside that debate room, and it is intense. You have a massive faction of humanity demanding revenge, and they are using completely logical, historically justified arguments.
Very rational arguments.
They are saying, look, the galaxy betrayed us. They exterminated billions of our ancestors. They forced us into a millennium of exile. They deserved exactly what the swarm is doing to them.
And you really have to acknowledge the absolute validity of that anger. This isn't just petty vindictiveness. It is a profound desire for cosmic justice.
Yeah, it's karma.
From their perspective, the galaxy made a definitive choice a millennium ago, and the Void Swarm is simply the natural consequence of that choice arriving to collect the debt.
Wait, let me play devil's advocate here, because I think a lot of listeners are screaming this at their devices right now. From a pure evolutionary survival standpoint, isn't helping the aliens incredibly reckless?
That's the core of the opposing argument.
Right. Humanity has spent 1,000 years hiding, rebuilding their population, developing this moon-sized technology. Why on earth would you risk the extinction of your newly rebuilt species for a population that has definitively proven they will betray you the second they get the chance?
It's a huge risk.
How do the advocates for mercy justify that strategically, not just morally?
That is the exact friction point of the debate. The advocates for mercy aren't just arguing from a place of naive altruism. They are arguing for ideological survival.
Ideological survival.
Yes. The opposing faction in the command world makes a profound philosophical pivot. Their core argument is, if we abandon them, we become what they believed us to be.
Which implies what, exactly?
Yeah.
That inaction is an endorsement of the genocide.
Yes. Remember the justification for the original betrayal. The aliens claimed humanity was a monster waiting to happen. They claimed humanity was inherently violent and domineering.
Right.
If humanity now acts callously, if they allow billions of alien innocents to be consumed by biological horrors out of spite, They retroactively prove the coalition right.
Oh, wow.
They validate the paranoia that led to their own near extermination. They become the monster the aliens invented.
The debate lasts for days. You can imagine the tension in that room, the shouting, the geopolitical data being thrown across holographic tables.
Outfakes.
But finally, Earth's High Chancellor makes a decision. And the way this scene plays out is vital. The High Chancellor steps up to the podium, the command room falls completely silent, and the Chancellor says, "We will save them. They gave us hatred. We will answer with mercy."
What the Chancellor is doing here is severing a 1,000-year cycle of vengeance. It requires a staggering amount of moral clarity and leadership to look at a historic, bleeding wound of your own people and decide that absorbing the pain, rather than reflecting it, is the only way to truly cure the infection.
It's incredibly profound.
The Chancellor understands that the Void Swarm is proving that destruction is mindless and easy. True, enduring power is the restraint required to construct a reality on your own terms, and the Chancellor decides that humanity's terms are going to be mercy.
But theory and debate are one thing. It's relatively easy to stand in a clean, perfectly safe command room and talk about the lofty philosophy of grace.
Execution is much harder.
Execution is an entirely different beast. How does that incredible philosophy translate onto a chaotic, terrifying battlefield? Because right after this political decision, we see the logistics of mercy in action. We go to the alien world of Exara.
The intervention at Bexara is the proving ground for this new human ideology, and the stakes are apocalyptic.
It's bad.
3 billion alien civilians are trapped on the planet. The Void Swarm has completely surrounded the system. The alien military has declared evacuation mathematically impossible. It is a planetary death sentence.
Put yourself on the ground there. You're an alien civilian. You're looking up at the sky. You see these living, organic nightmare ships blotting out the sun. And, with absolute certainty that this is the end of your species.
Pure despair.
And then the sky literally tears open. Thousands of human ships emerge from hyperspace directly into the gravity well.
Just a massive show of force.
The source material notes that their weapons fired beams brighter than suns, instantly vaporizing entire sectors of the swarm fleet. But it isn't just a sterile orbital bombardment.
They get in the mix.
Human transports actively descend into the atmospheric danger zone, taking fire, to rescue millions of aliens from the surface.
Consider the intense cognitive dissonance for the Vexarans. Their entire cultural mythology, as we discussed, is built around the idea that humanity is the ultimate evil, a boogeyman their heroic ancestors righteously defeated.
Right, the propaganda they've been fed for a millennium.
Now, facing an actual, undeniable cosmic evil in form of the swarm, the boogeyman arrives. But instead of bringing the expected punishment, the ghost of the species they murdered is throwing its own soldiers into the meat grinder to act as a shield.
It just shatters their entire worldview in a matter of hours.
The historical records note that the aliens watched in complete disbelief as the species they once tried to exterminate bled to save them.
And that disbelief ripples outward. Across the entire degrading galaxy, a single question starts spreading faster than the swarm itself. Why?
It just doesn't compute for them.
Why would humanity do this? Why not take revenge? Why risk human pilots for alien civilians?
It completely defies the standard calculus of galactic politics, which had been operating purely on paranoia, self-interest, and zero-sum survival for 1,000 years.
And the answer to that question, the answer that changes the entire geopolitical paradigm of the galaxy, doesn't come from the High Chancellor or some grand political manifesto.
It comes from the front lines.
It comes from a young human officer, a pilot who had been fighting in the mud, giving an interview. She says, and this quote is essentially the thesis of our entire deep dive, "Revenge is easy, mercy is harder, but mercy creates a future."
Let's unpack the mechanics of that statement because it is phenomenally layered.
Yes, let's do it.
Revenge is easy because it is entirely reactive. It gives in to emotional gravity. It requires no emotional regulation, no long-term vision, no discipline. You simply return the kinetic energy of the pain you were given.
You hit me, I hit you back.
Exactly. Mercy is harder because it demands that you actively absorb that kinetic energy without passing it on. It requires you to act as a buffer, to stop the momentum of generational hatred using your own emotional and physical endurance.
Right, you have to choose to take the hit. But it's the last part of the quote that really lands. But mercy creates a future.
Vengeance only ever looks backward. It is obsessed with balancing the ledger of the past. But when you finally destroy your enemy, you're left standing in a graveyard of your own making, completely alone, surrounded by the ruins of a zero-sum game.
It's a dead end.
Mercy, on the other hand, is an active creative force. By bleeding to save the Vexarans, humanity isn't just stopping the swarm. They are laying the concrete foundation for a new geopolitical architecture.
They are actively building a future ecosystem where humanity is trusted implicitly, not just feared.
And they commit to this architecture with everything they have. The source material describes a decade-long conflict known as the Great Campaign.
10 years of hell.
For 10 years, humanity fights a grinding war of attrition against the Void Swarm. Battle after battle, world after world, they deploy their moon-sized ships wherever the enemy attacks.
They save the very civilizations that hated them.
They protect the species that threw parades celebrating their downfall. They defend worlds that had never even offered an apology.
They take the hit so the galaxy doesn't have to. And during this campaign, as human fleets are bleeding to protect the descendants of their betrayers, something massive shifts in the background. The truth finally comes out.
This is a crucial sociological turning point. Inspired by humanity's incomprehensible grace, alien historians begin to do something they haven't done in a millennium. They start digging into their own past with a critical eye.
They start looking for the real story.
They bypass the state-sanctioned history books and uncover hidden, encrypted records, data suppressed by their own paranoid governments for centuries.
The real files.
They unearth the real, unvarnished history of the Human Coalition War.
And the truth is an absolute gut punch to the galaxy. The raw data shows that humanity never started the ancient war. The records prove that human diplomats tried, repeatedly and desperately, to negotiate peace right up until the orbital bombardments began.
It was entirely one-sided.
The coalition of alien empires attacked first. The entire justification for the betrayal, the fear-mongering about humanity being a violent threat, it was all fabricated. It was pure propaganda designed to cover up the coalition's own preemptive, insecure strike.
This raises a fascinating question about how a society functions when it realizes its foundational myth is a lie.
It has to be devastating.
For 1,000 years, entire generations of these alien species grew up believing they were the heroes of history. To suddenly discover that your ancestors were the monsters all along and that the demon you've been taught to fear is currently sacrificing its own sons and daughters to save you from extinction.
The collective cognitive dissonance must have been world-shattering.
Absolutely.
I want you to really put yourself in the shoes of those alien citizens for a second. Imagine the staggering, crushing weight of that collective guilt. For a millennium, your culture hated the wrong target. You celebrated a genocide based on a lie.
And the truth is unavoidable now.
And the only reason you are currently alive to feel that guilt is because the victims of your genocide refused to let you die. It is a total moral surrender. The galaxy's perspective completely flips overnight, moving from a position of arrogant entitlement to profound, humbling gratitude.
Which is exactly what humanity's leadership understood when they chose mercy over revenge. You cannot force a population to genuinely respect you through violence. You can only force them to fear you, which just breeds future rebellion.
Right, fear isn't respect.
But by combining absolute, overwhelming physical power with an unimpeachable moral high ground, humanity completely disarms the galaxy's ideological defenses. They win the philosophical war without firing a shot at the aliens.
But as impactful as that historical revelation is, realizing you were wrong doesn't stop a biological nightmare fleet from eating your planet.
The swarm doesn't care about history.
Exactly. The Void Swarm doesn't care about apologies or historical records or collective guilt. The war is still raging, and the narrative starts accelerating toward a terrifying, apocalyptic climax.
Final push.
Despite humanity's intervention, the swarm pushes deeper and deeper into civilized space until it finally reaches the galactic core.
The absolute heart of the galaxy. And here we see the true, incomprehensible scale of the enemy. The source material describes the swarm's central node, the hive appearing at the core. It's described as a biological structure larger than entire solar systems.
Let that sink in. A single, interconnected biological construct that dwarfs the orbit of planets, protected by millions of living organic vessels.
It's mathematically impossible for a conventional military to engage. Every strategic AI and military planner in the remaining alien empires looks at the telemetry data and comes to the exact same conclusion. The battle cannot be won.
It's a lost cause.
The mass of the swarm is simply too great. They declare the galaxy a lost cause and advise their populations to prepare for the end.
But humanity disagrees. And this is where Earth finally unveils the ace they've been holding up their sleeve for 1,000 years of exile. The narrative introduces Operation Dawn.
The grand reveal.
We finally get to see the logistics of what humanity was doing during their millennium in the dark. They weren't just hiding, they were harvesting entire dead solar systems. They were building.
Operation Dawn unveils a secret fleet of 100,000 Titan-class warships.
100,000.
The logistical supply chain required to build, maintain, and crew a fleet of that magnitude in deep space without relying on any established galactic trade routes is just staggering.
It's mind-boggling.
It implies Dyson sphere levels of energy harvesting and automated mining on a scale the alien empires couldn't even conceptualize.
The text calls them the most powerful vessels ever created by any species. They are so massive that their sheer physical presence in the staging areas literally darkened entire sectors of space.
A literal shadow over the stars.
It's a show of force so profound that it finally injects hope back into a despairing galaxy. But even with 100,000 Titans, the final battle at the core is not a clean sweep. It is an absolute grinding meat grinder of a conflict.
The narrative doesn't shy away from the brutality of the logistics here. It details a 30-day non-stop battle at the galactic core.
30 days of that scale.
The sheer volume of kinetic and thermal energy being exchanged is so vast that localized space-time is warped. Unstable stars in the region are triggered into supernovas.
It's practically breaking reality.
Planets in the core systems are physically shaken apart by the gravitational wakes of the swarm and the Titans colliding. It's an apocalyptic event.
And the human losses are staggering. This isn't a Hollywood movie where the advanced humans just sweep the board without a scratch. They are taking horrific casualties.
Ships are going down.
Titan ships are being consumed and shattered. Yet, the tactical data points out something vital. The human lines never retreated.
They held the line.
Every single destroyed human ship was a calculated sacrifice. They were intentionally placing themselves in the path of the swarm's most devastating attacks, trading their own lives to buy time, throwing themselves into the fire to keep the swarm away from the populated alien sectors behind them.
It loops right back to the young officer's quote, "Mercy is harder. It requires sacrifice."
Blood and steel.
Humanity is paying the ultimate physical price, substituting their own blood and steel for the blood of the civilizations that once tried to exterminate them. They are winning not just through superior technology, but through an unmatched, terrifying willingness to die for their former enemies.
Finally, after a month of unrelenting cosmic destruction, the human flagship, taking massive damage, punches a hole through the swarm's inner defenses and reaches the central biological hive.
The core of the swarm.
It fires a single experimental weapon, a beam of unimaginable exotic energy across the void. The hive shatters.
No critical hits.
The swarm's central intelligence, or its biological anchor, collapses in on itself. The millions of living vessels instantly go dormant or die. And just like that, the war is over. The existential threat is neutralized.
The galaxy survives, the swarm is dead, but in the immediate eerie aftermath of this monumental victory, as the debris settles, a new and very old tension settles over the stars.
Right, because once the celebrations end, the alien empires suddenly realize their new stark reality. The swarm is gone, yes, but humanity is still here.
And they are fully armed.
And humanity is now undeniably stronger than every remaining civilization combined. They've just proven they possess fleets that can shatter a biological structure the size of a solar system.
Unstoppable force.
Nothing can stop them. Nothing can resist them. And so the old fear, that ancient paranoia, returns. The galaxy waits for judgment.
They project their own guilt once again. The alien politicians assumed that the mercy humanity showed during the war against the swarm was just a temporary alliance of convenience.
Just a means to an end.
A necessary evil to defeat a common foe. Now that the swarm is defeated, they fully expect humanity to finally issue the bill for the last 1,000 years of exile and the blood spilled during the Great Campaign.
They think the hammer is about to fall.
They expect conquest, they expect subjugation, they expect revenge.
The Grand Galactic Assembly is called. Representatives from thousands of surviving worlds attend. You can imagine the atmosphere in that massive hall.
Thousands of alien delegates, sweating, trembling.
Waiting for the executioner to read the sentence. Earth's High Chancellor takes the podium, and the source provides us with a transcript of this legendary speech. I'm going to read it because every word is loaded with historical and sociological weight.
It's a pivotal moment.
The Chancellor looks out at the assembly and says, "You expected us to return with hatred. You expected us to punish you. You expected vengeance."
The hall is dead silent. They know it's true.
The Chancellor continues, Our revenge is this. We will save the galaxy you tried to destroy us from. We will protect the children of those who hated us. We will build a future that includes everyone. We refuse to become monsters.
It is an absolute masterpiece of rhetorical framing and psychological dominance.
It's so powerful.
Notice the specific phrase, our revenge is this. By framing their profound mercy as an act of revenge, the Chancellor is asserting total control over the narrative.
Taking the power back.
They are effectively saying, we are not sparing you because we are weak, or because we are naive, or because we've forgotten what you did. We are sparing you because we are infinitely stronger than you, not just in our firepower, but in our character.
It's brilliant. They are completely dismantling the enemy's foundational ideology. The Coalition's entire justification for their betrayal 1,000 years ago was the fear that humanity would become a monster.
And they just flip it.
The Chancellor looks them dead in the eye and says, "We refuse to become monsters." It is the most undeniable assertion of moral supremacy imaginable. They conquer the galaxy without having to subjugate a single planet or fire a single suppression shot.
They force the galaxy into a positive-sum reality. By refusing to play the zero-sum game of retribution, they break the wheel.
And we see the long-term logistical results of this ideological victory in the aftermath. Years later, massive monuments are built across countless alien worlds. But they aren't monuments to human military victory.
Not statues of generals.
They aren't statues of Titan warships or conquered alien leaders. They are monuments built by the aliens themselves to celebrate mercy.
The source points out that humanity could have ruled through fear, demanding heavy tributes and absolute obedience. Instead, they ruled through profound respect, offering reconstruction and friendship.
The greatest act of revenge in galactic history was, paradoxically, forgiveness.
And the galaxy never forgot the lesson because the contrast was so stark. When humanity finally held absolute power, when they had every historical justification to push the button and erase their betrayers, well, they chose to build instead of burn.
They changed the geopolitical architecture of the stars forever.
They really did.
So what does this all mean? When we zoom out and look at the entirety of this deep dive, the betrayal, the exile, the return, and the choice, what is the core functional takeaway from the mercy of 1,000 years?
It proves, through the lens of game theory and sociology, that the absolute greatest flex of power is the restraint not to use it for harm.
The restraint.
Anyone can destroy. Destruction requires nothing but anger and a weapon. It is fundamentally easy.
It's the lazy path.
But to have the capacity for total annihilation, to hold the memory of profound betrayal, and to consciously choose to absorb that pain and construct a shared future, that is true invincibility.
It breaks the cycle.
It breaks the cycle of violence and creates a reality where you are unassailable. Not because people fear your guns, but because they revere your grace and depend on your strength.
It is a stunning reframing of what strength actually looks like. And it brings me to a final thought I want you, listening right now, to mull over.
The application to reality.
Consider those monuments to mercy we just talked about. In our own lives, on a much smaller human scale, when we are wronged, when we are betrayed by a friend or a colleague, we so often equate strength with our ability to strike back.
You want to get even.
We think that clapping back or getting even or outmaneuvering them is how we show we aren't weak. But if the sociology of this narrative holds true, if true, enduring power is the restraint to forgive when you have every justification to destroy, well, how often do we mistake our own reactive aggression for strength?
It's a hard mirror to look into.
The next time you find yourself holding all the cards in a conflict, the next time you have the absolute power to crush someone who wronged you, ask yourself, are you building a monument to your own anger, or are you creating a positive-sum future through your mercy?
Powerful thought.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.